province, Hubei province, is located in central China, along with the Yangtze River.
Yeah, unfortunately I haven't been, but who knows? One day I will.
So I think that you have contributed a lot to our country, and you have witnessed the development in the
Seen it grow from 1980s.
1980s.
From 1980s to now, I have been working on China.
It's so long time.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you must witness the reform
Yeah.
and opening up.
Fascinating reforms, and also participating in the design of reforms, and the debates surrounding these reforms has been very interesting.
So, what impressed you most during the past years when we talk about reform and opening up?
I think there are so many things about China that fascinate you. I think one, China has strong resilience. You will see all the academics predicting whether China will have soft landing or whether China will have hard landing. China has had neither of it. China has just moved on. China has grown, China has expanded, China has diversified, China has innovated, China has led development from the front. There's a lot of learning from China's development experience. But what fascinates everybody about China is, given its size, it's very difficult to reform China, yet China has driven its reforms and designed them itself. You can't implant a foreign model of development into China. It's too complicated to bring in ideological things from different parts of the world. But what is fascinating is China has opened up, and China is quite committed to going forward with its opening up. If you listen to the Chinese leaders, they tell us now that there will be no reversing the liberalization, and if at all anything, China is going to play a much more significant role in global governance. It's already doing so. It's contributing effectively to the peace initiatives of the United Nations. It has had very strong ownership of the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. It is not only implementing itself, but it's also taking forward. Other countries may have backtracked on climate. China remains steadfast, and it is pushing for carbon-free environments. It's a big country. It's got a lot of history. It's got a lot of inefficient enterprises. Over time, it has to clean up faster. It has tried to modernize its financial system. There have been lots of losses also in the financial system. It's been recapitalized and recapitalized. So there's a lot of interesting history. It's trying to open up its monetary policy now slowly. It's trying to look at exchange rate issues also. RMB has now been internationalized by being included in special drawing rights. So it's fascinating what's happened relative to the 70s to now.
Yeah. When we talk about the opening up where we located here, the Boao town, it is also an example for the Chinese development and the opening up. And not long ago, it's just a fishing town, but now it has been called the East Dallas.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, how do you feel about the development of the Boao?
I think it's fascinating. It's very modern. Doesn't look like a fishing town to me. It looks like a tourist destination from all characteristics. They're huge, beautiful golf courses. There's a lot of activity, economic activity. There's beautiful coast, and I know that there are very promising future in your plan. You are planning to lift Pua, but there are lots of fascinating locations that have, you talk about this as a fishing town. You go to Shenzhen and you also hear a similar history of Shenzhen. And now Shenzhen is fascinating in terms of the leaps and bounds it will take in artificial intelligence, because my last visit before I left United Nations was to Shenzhen, and it went through and I met the mayor and he talked about the history of Shenzhen. So China attracts a lot of development practitioners and development policy people because of how it's transformed itself. And there's a lot of learning, but of course it requires a huge amount of commitment, political commitment, capital, and a lot of forward-looking vision to do so. I think from the Boa Forum, the big thing that everybody looks at is to understand from the Chinese speaker, of course, what they visualize, how the process will go forward. Of course, there has been a debate of the 70 years of China, but also what has happened fascinatingly in the last 40 years. But also one hopes to learn about what is yet to follow. So one would like to hear more of discussion on the forward-looking reforms in China and how China will steer that, because there is going to be a lot of relocation of industry in China, and everybody is watching that and everybody is watching as to where is China going to compete. So there will be a lot of shifting of the economic centers within the region. As they say, when China sneezes, the world catches a flu. So when China is positively developing, the rising of China is quite a threat to a lot of other bigger partners from what we are hearing. And everybody is giving a comfort on that. But the industrial transformation and what it is going to mean for Asia Pacific region has yet to be studied more effectively.
Yeah, we know that the Belt and Road Forum will be held in next month in Beijing. We will take part in that and to have alien opinions for that forum.
Right, yes. Well, we'll all be there.
Yeah.
I have been invited to be there, so I will be attending it.
Yeah, okay.
How many times have you participated in the Boao Forum for Asia? What changes have been brought to Pakistan by the Belt and Road Initiative, and can you share us one or two specific stories? What expectations do you have for China's future reform and opening up?
Okay, if you have chance or have time, will you take part in this forum in the future? In the later years, will you take
Well, if I am invited, yes. So you make sure you tell them to invite me again and again.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.